Hi, this is Rob at KBSI, and today I'd like to help you create an above grade wall library. A couple things that should be fairly useful to you. I want to create a wall library for R13 cavity insulation wood siding. Then I'm going to create a similar wall with sheetrock in the exterior to represent the wall between the house and the garage. And then finally today I want to create a wall that has no exterior sheathing. Like a knee wall does not have anything on the outside, on the attic side of the wall. And I want to create that because there's no default for either the house garage wall or the knee wall in REM rate. These are some things that I ask you to do for probationary ratings, so let's get started. If you open REM rate and go to above grade walls, I'm just going to click on new here and tab down to the name, and let's just create a wall that you'll see fairly often, the standard R13 wall with wood lap siding. So I'm going to call it wood lap. When I get to the three buttons here, this is where it allows me to select or create a wall. So I click that, and I'm going to create a new wall. So I'm going to hit copy and paste and then rename this wall, and I'm going to rename it with a very descriptive name, R13 grade 3, and then I'm going to specify the framing as 2x4 at 16 on center, and then wood lap as the exterior siding. So I've said that this is R13 cavity insulation, and the cavity insulation thickness then will be 3.5 inches for a 2x4 frame. The insulation grade is grade 3, and sheetrock on the interior is a 1/2 inch. Spacing 16. Width and depth of the studs is correct for a 2x4 framing. Then I'm going to delete this note that I had for an uninsulated wall, and as soon as I hit OK, I've created this new wall. So there's a wall that has wood lap siding. I'm going to go back and look at that. I'm going to look at it in path layer so that you'll understand what's going on here. When we get to the next wall, I'm going to edit this path layer. So what I have is the R value of all the insulation materials, anything that adds thermal resistance to the wall, from inside to outside as I look vertically from top to bottom. I have three paths: cavity, framing, and grade. The framing is the 2x4 framing that the wall is made out of, and I look at the bottom of this column. It shows that 23% of that wall is framing. 72% of the wall is in between the framing, full of insulation, and then 5%, since I gave it a grade 3, is in between the framing that's missing insulation. So in each one of these paths, if I look vertically from top to bottom, I'm looking from inside to outside, and I'm looking at the R value of materials that are in this wall. So if I look at the cavity path, the cavity insulation has a value of R13. This is how REM rate creates the overall thermal value of the wall by doing an area weighted U value calculation on these three paths. If I give the insulation a grade 1, then this grade path has no area, or it has all zeros in there for R value. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to create a new library, and this time I want to create a library for the wall between the house and the garage. So I hit new, and uninsulated stub comes up. I'm going to go house/garage for this wall, and again I'm going to create a new wall by hitting copy and then paste. I'm going to name this wall R13 G3 2x4-16 because it's framed the same way. And then on the outside, I have gypsum board. So I only have 20 characters there I can use to name it. I'm going to leave this standard wood frame. I'm going to repeat what I just did. R13 insulation R value, thickness 3.5, and grade 3. The rest of this is okay. Delete this note. I'm going to click OK. Now I've created exactly the same wall as I did before. I just named the library differently. And I can see that it's the same by, if I scroll back and forth between these two, I have the same U value in there in scrolling back and forth. Okay, I want this wall to be different though, so I'm going to go back into the library and edit the path layer. Again, the path layer has all of the R values of the pieces of this wall. The exterior finish for this wall between the house and the garage, I'm going to say this is 5/8 inch chipboard, and I'm going to modify this R value. If you look up the R value of 5/8 chipboard, it's 0.56, so I'm going to edit this path to have that R value that covers the cavity, the framing, and the gaps in the insulation. So now I have, when I hit OK, I have a library that represents a wall that has sheetrock on the outside. And if I scroll back and forth between these two libraries, you'll see now they have different thermal values. Generally, any different construction will have a different thermal value. So I want to create one more library. I'm going to hit New again. I'm going to do the same thing. This library, I want to create a knee wall. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I am going to go copy, paste, and this time I'm going to name the knee wall that I'm going to create very similar. It has R13 cavity insulation, grade 3, 2x4 framing at 16 on center, and then I'm going to say knee for the exterior side of that wall. I'm going to leave this standard wood frame. I'm going to put the cavity insulation value in there and the depth of that cavity and grade 3. The rest of the framing information is correct. Now when I click OK, I've created a new library name, but it's going to have the same thermal value as this first wood lap wall until I modify it. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to modify the path layer, and this time the exterior finish, I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to zero out the R value in that path. And now I have a wall that has no exterior finish. Everything else is the same. When I click OK, now this knee wall has a different thermal value than the other two walls that I've created. So that's what you need to be able to do. And if you really understand what's going on in modifying the path layer, you can create a library for anything that you might find in the field. Hope you got that, and I'll get back with you with some more tutorials. We'll eventually create an entire energy rating for an example house.